We are 8 weeks into the year, and that means for my 52 book challenge, I should have 8 books completed, and thank goodness I am on track. But if you're new here, my name is Jennifer from Watkins Through Life, and I am on a challenge to complete 52 book prompts as well as countless other life prompts throughout this year. If you join the 52 Challenge Facebook group, you can access a lot of the tracking documents and spreadsheets that users have created and uploaded, but this one is by far my favorite. I love inputting everything into Excel, so this is right up my alley. And I love that it comes preset with conditional formatting to change the color of the prompts based on what coded annotations you're putting next to each book. So on the left, I've made a list of books starting with the ones that I've completed, and then below are books that I found that could work for the prompts. For each of the books, I go through the row marking which prompts it fulfills, and then choosing Y for definitely marked for the prompt, X works with the prompt, and then for books I haven't read yet, P is for possible match to the prompt. As you can see, I still haven't marked anything for set in Australia, final book in the series, published in 2023, secondhand book, or doesn't fit any other prompt. Most of those are going to naturally fill themselves out as I go through the year. So whatever books I have left over from prompts that are already filled, I can apply those towards the secondhand book because most of my books are from thrift stores or the library. Hopefully I'll find a book that I like and I'll end up reading the series, leading to the final book of the series. And as far as the published in 2023, that'll be easily checked off my list as soon as I receive Tress from the secret project box that Brandon Sanderson is sending out. But set in Australia is still stumping me. I definitely need to just sit down and do some research on it, but I'm still so focused on filling a lot of the other prompts that I have planned that I just haven't taken the time to do that yet. But let's go through the books that I have read so far so that you can get my reviews on them. The first one I read this year is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Barnes. This one I had to read because it's the same name as me, it starts with an I, deals with an inheritance, has a funeral, it has so many of the prompts filled in. I don't know what I'll end up using this one for, but it's definitely going to fit in nicely. This book was a solid 3 stars for me. It had a good amount of puzzles with a twist that makes you want to keep reading the next book, and maybe I will. The reason it's a solid 3-star book for me is that the writing of the romantic relationships throughout the book just feel full-on ogling to me, and there's very little else to invest the reader in these relationships. The second book that I finished is The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury, and this is by far one of the best books I have ever read in my life. I think I told you a little bit about this book in my previous video when I was still reading it, but let me give you a quick synopsis. This book is a series of short stories, and each of the short stories tells the story of a tattoo on this man's body. He works as an illustrated man for a carnival or a circus, and these tattoos were inked on him by a witch. And each of them moves and tells a story and tells futures and all of these incredibly magical things. And of course, Ray Bradbury brings all of the sci-fi and dystopian and fantasy elements that he loves so much into every single one of these stories. I absolutely love that it ends up leaving you with questions and a head full of thoughts that needs thinking through. My husband loves movies that make you think, and I have to say, I think I'm the same with books. There's something special about a book that leaves your mind pondering the stories for hours afterwards, and this one is definitely special. Next is The Keeper of Lost Things. I am most impressed with how Ruth Hogan keeps every strand of the story evenly braided throughout the book. She switches between the threads very easily, balancing both sides of the story until the very end. It was also really lovely to see all of the different kinds of characters that she involved. Many novels nowadays focus on a very narrow demographic, whether it be one race, one religion, one age, one set of abilities. And this one I feel like had a broad range of everything, which was really quite refreshing. After that, I read The Unexpected Stories by Octavia Butler. This was a really quick read, just 2 of her short stories, and I had honestly never heard of her before this challenge. I'm so glad that I was introduced to her, because with how much I love sci-fi and fantasy, it was just a dead ringer for me. Of course I was going to love her. They were so unique and engaging to read, and every minute of the book that I read, I couldn't wait for the next minute. And man, if I love short stories as much as I have with this set and with The Illustrated Man, then maybe I should be reading more short stories. Continuing with the fantasy, I went to Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. It was a really solid concept of a book with a lot of clever stories to fill in the dreams and the world building. But honestly, my favorite part is the title. I mean, his name is literally Strange, and he's a dreamer. So Strange the Dreamer, but also in the metaphorical sense that the dreamer is strange, you know? So like that play on words and double meaning just has lots of layers throughout the book, which I really enjoyed. Other than that, it was a solid 4-star book for me. My favorite parts happened in the first half, and the rest of it was good, just not a zinger for me. I probably won't read the second book because it seems to deal a lot with the trope of, we got ourselves into a real pickle, and the only way we can solve the problem is by facing reality, and we don't want to do that. And I'm not going to read a whole book to watch the characters come to the inevitable conclusion that they have to face reality. It just doesn't seem worth a whole book to me. But if you love that trope, all the power to you. Incarceron by Catherine Fisher was a good book. It had a good concept for the world and the plot, but the way it was set out and presented to the reader was entirely predictable. I saw every plot twist coming from miles away, and as you get deeper into the book and into the science that it employs, it just starts to seem a little bit more improbable as you go along. Again, it was an okay book. It just wasn't quite my speed. One of the prompts that really pushed me out of my comfort zone in this 52 book challenge was Nordic noir. And knowing nothing about it, I Googled popular and successful authors. And Ragnar Jonasson came up and he wrote a book called The Darkness that had good reviews. So I read it. From what I can tell, the book fits very well into the genre and was really well written. I just can't figure out, are all Nordic noirs supposed to end this darkly? I mean, I know noir is in the title, but like, do they all end like this? If you've read the book, please tell me. I guess I'm staying serious after Nordic Noir because I read Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer next. And I have a little bit of a soapbox for this one. It takes a lot of courage to write about a disaster that you witnessed personally, especially so soon after the event. And if you read this trying to find a place to assign the blame, you're missing the point. It is a very dangerous thing to climb to the summit. And at that elevation, things happen that cannot be planned and cannot be accounted for, especially when no one is in their right mind due to oxygen deprivation. That is to say, everyone who is on that mountain in that season has to live with a nightmare. And I can't imagine going home and trying to heal and trying to work through the whole experience while everyone is raining hate on you. And it wasn't just Jon Krakauer. A lot of media, a lot of people still today, still right now in book reviews and media reviews are still raining down hate on the survivors of this experience when they experienced something truly awful. And sure, mistakes were made, but we weren't there. Can't we all just grieve and let them heal? Some people are just way too combative in the reviews for my taste. I decided I needed to get into something completely different, back into the fiction world for And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I actually read this in 7th grade English class as part of a classroom read. And we did this as a way to practice making guesses and hypotheses and engaging with the book throughout reading. I remember loving the book, and I remember that I pegged the murderer from the very beginning. And my teacher was just astounded. When we finally finished the book and knew who it was, she looked at me and was like, "How did you know?" And I must say, even though I remember who the murderer was, it was just as engaging and just as fun to read it this time through. Which is a rare thing to say about a murder mystery book. The most recent book that I finished is called Sex Educated by Bonnie Young. It was actually just published this month. This book is written in a letter format to herself at various times throughout her life, saying everything to herself that she wishes she'd been told growing up. This is specifically a niche book, mostly for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It will still be helpful to every other person. There's just references to common things we were told growing up in the church that might not feel so relatable. I personally 1000% needed this book, and I'm so glad that I took a few hours to read it. Currently, I'm working through 2 books. I'm working through the audiobook of Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I'm going through Daughters of Deceit by Victoria Holt. But that is all for my reading update so far this year. Keep an eye out for future videos because I will be posting one updating you on our technical bakes from the Great British Baking Competition, and I am also working on one about writing prompts from literature. If you are also working on the 52 book challenge this year, go ahead and leave me a comment down below with which prompts you're still trying to fill, and maybe we can help fill in each other's blanks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. That's my water.